Hare Krishna.
Thank you for being here. Today is going to be a class on habits. And small steps toward eternal happiness, and how small habits shape the path and bring about destiny. And sometimes we ignore this, but habits are very critical in our growth, especially in our spiritual journey. So we're going to start with Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Branjana Yashodanandana Branjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Branjana Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Thank you everyone for being here, and may I ask you for your blessing so I can give, so I can remember, and so Krishna can inspire and use me as a servant, and so we can all learn something today. Thank you. So today class is on habits. It is inspired by a book on habits, written by forgot his last name. Quick. His last name is Quick. Oh, James Quick. However, it's going to be like a bhakti, marital bhakti. So, like always, the course, my style is to ask a few questions at the beginning. So, why do we know sometimes what is right but still doing what is wrong? Why do we experience this in our daily experience? Why do we know what is right, but in spite of that, we're still doing the wrong thing? Anyone? Why is that particular thing? We experience this. Yeah?
Well, firstly, it depends what cultural background you come from,
Yeah.
your family habits, society, your environment, all these factors come into play.
Yeah, the environment. So it's important how we like the people that we're surrounding with. Right? It influences our behavior. It influences our thinking. It influences how we feel and what we do. And so it's important to surround ourselves with persons that help us to cultivate healthy habits that can help us actually become pure and cultivate pure love of God instead of become attached to lust, anger. And so, and also we experience this dilemma always. We know what we should do, but we don't do it because there are so many options, and therefore, yes, we experience this cognitive dissonance. And the two principles comes in conflict within our mind, and we make the wrong decisions. So, how many of you have made a spiritual resolution by saying, "From tomorrow I'll chant attentively," or "I'll never skip my morning sadhana again," only to fall back again a few days later? Why is that? What do you think? It's because it's like a impression, habitual thing, but it's primarily influenced by our environment. If they encourage unfavorable activities, they prevent us from to do what we're supposed to do. And so, unless those activities are favorable, and then we tend to fall back, to fall short. So what if I told you that who you are tomorrow is determined not by grand decisions, but just tiny habits practiced today, and most of which we aren't even aware of it. And so there is actually a very nice principle. It's called the 80-20 rule. It's called also Pareto principle, and shows that roughly 20% of our causes produce 80% of results. And so most what we do, our busy work, distractions, or habits, often contributes very little, while a small focused effort yields most of the impact. So if we learn to recognize this, it helps us to focus on what truly matters. Because sometimes we think that we need to do a bunch of things to achieve success in life, in any field, especially in Bhakti, because today is Bhakti class. But it actually starts with a small step, baby steps, just one thing at a time, such as a gradual increase of rounds, one prayer a day. Yeah, very small. So in Bhakti, similarly, a small fraction of our activities, such as pure attentive chanting, tzitzi service, or half-hour prayer, produces the majority of spiritual progress. And so sometimes we think we need to do a lot of things to have some results. But in fact, it starts with small. Yeah?
Sorry, could I just say to the
Yeah.
You're correct, it takes doing baby steps. But I think what people tend to forget as well is the other habits that people may have.
Yeah.
Eating, intoxication, gambling,
Yes.
and all these things. You have to work in tangent together with all of this.
Yeah, of
So
course.
most devotees that come into Krishna consciousness, they're coming with that sort of baggage.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of time before they decide not to have the taste, not to do those things.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to explore exactly that today. Yeah. So today we'll uncover why this happens and how to actually build habits that stick. And not just for productivity, but for pure devotion. So for example, in this, imagine a river slowly carving canyon over centuries. At first nothing seems to happen, but drop by drop it creates something monumental. So your habits are like those drops. They appear small, but over time they define the shape of your life, your mind, and even your devotion. So just small steps at a time. Just like how do we get addicted to anything? For example, why we're addicted to sugar, right? Well, but because we increase it every day. You do it more every single day. You eat a little bit more every single day. 150 grams more every single day, and eventually you get addicted. It becomes a habit. So similarly, if by increasing something that we do cultivates a habit, then we can do the opposite as well. Decrease it, small amount, less. For example, 30 minutes less Netflix or YouTube, right? Or 30 minutes less scrolling through social media every single day. Less. Well, we can start even smaller, 5 minutes less. And eventually it becomes so much less that because we are replacing with healthy habits. So all big things comes from small beginnings. Nothing starts big. The baby starts also with the small steps at a time. It doesn't run all of a sudden. So our mind is like the field, and every thought and action is the seed. And the seeds we water daily through repetition grow into trees called habits. And this is how it's done. Anything you do regularly becomes your nature. And if you chant regularly, your tongue will automatically say Hare Krishna. We don't automatically say Hare Krishna, especially at the time of death. Usually, at the time of death, we think of our predominant thinking, our habits where, in fact, we create our habits, then habits create our life. This is another way to put it. So we should understand habits. Habits are the building blocks of our life, and tiny decision repeats daily. And so therefore we should do little things at a time. Just don't underestimate small steps. Sometimes we think we need to do a bunch of actions before we produce any actions, but that's not true. You start with little things. So most people think change comes from motivation or willpower, but real change comes from designing your environment in cues. We have to have reminders all the time. So what tiny actions today could start a ripple effect in your life or spiritual practice? What that would be. And so I'm going to quote Bhagavad Gita 6:35, where Krishna says, "Almighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind. but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So what suitable practice can that be? What daily habits are watering right now? What are those habits that we're watering right now? The ones that pull me closer to Krishna or further away from Krishna. Because if we practice distraction, then we're learning a new skill, a new habit of reducing our attention to a few minutes. Because what scrolling does is reducing our life's attention span to 1 minute, sometimes 30 seconds. And you can see in people's eyes when you speak to them. If you can even ask a question, what did I just say? It's funny. It's a funny experience if you do that. They, you can tell by watching their eyes if they're actually attentive or not. And primarily because we are we allow our attention to be drifted by external activities and stimulants. So the mind can't be tamed by force, but it can be healed by taste. Just as a disease is cured through the right medicine and diet, the restless mind is cured through hearing about Krishna and tasting devotion. Every moment we hear about him, the mind is purified and begins to lose interest in low things, not by suppression, but by satisfaction. So real detachment isn't turning away from life, it's turning toward the sweetness of Krishna until everything else simply fades in comparison. So when we constantly engage our senses, our ears in hearing, our nose in smelling the incense and the flower that is offered to the lotus feet, we engage ours to watch the Lord form, then gradually that high taste is developed, and therefore we lose this compulsion, this from contaminated things. So we, in this book that is inspired this class, there is a quote that says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the levels of your system." So, which pretty much means that if we have weak system, so our goals, we are affected by this. Unless we cultivate a strong system, which is bhakti, devotional service, then we fall apart. So we need to have a strong foundation, just like, in fact, to focus on the root. You see, the tree, for example, in spite of all the calamities outside, it remains unmoved. A storm, earthquake, heavy rain, or heavy snow, the tree stays unmoved. Why? Why is that? Because the tree focuses on the root. It builds strong foundation in the root. So no matter how strong is the storm, it remains unmoved. But if the trees, especially the new ones, the baby ones, they cannot survive because their roots are not deep enough into the ground. So they fall, they break. So similarly, if we primarily focus on the surface, then when we experience these calamities, we will just fall apart, we break. But if we focus on the root, then no matter what comes upon us, we are undisturbed. We just can move forward in life. So regulative principles are not restriction. They are directions toward freedom. They actually build the root of our life. Just like a house needs the foundation, we need also foundation. So we must all suffer from one or two pains in life. Perhaps you've heard about this. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And the difference between the two is that the pain of regret weighs a ton compared to the pain of discipline. The discipline might take several years, but And then we can, if we do it every single day, then it becomes easy if you maintain that lifestyle of doing every time the right thing. So we first make our habits, and then our habits make us. Isn't that true? And so healthy habits are learned in the same way as unhealthy ones, through practice. You know, if we engage in distracting ourselves all the time, we become masters of distractions. Right? Or if we seek constantly self-gratification and never stop for a moment and introspect and ask questions and read Bhagavad Gita, then we never actually progress. And so there is a similar thing in sport. We do not rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. Right? If we don't train, we fail. It's too late to go to prepare if you're already on the stage. So Bhakti prepares us for that, for any storm. This is the very least that Bhakti can do. A lot of things can be accomplished through devotional service. And so motivation is what gets you started, but habits is what keeps you going. And so if we practice devotional service, such as the 9 limbs of devotion, that will become very strong and unmoved, therefore stable. And bhakti is actually not the only, not the goal, but also the means to attain Krishna. So in bhakti, we do not rise to liberation by desire alone. We rise to the daily system of our sadhana. So the quality of our sadhana determines our experience. If we are inattentive when we chant, where we insincere when we pray, where we come as beggars, not as lovers, then that will determine our results. So here is a beautiful analogy that is often used. Imagine trying to grow mangoes by shouting at the seed, grow. It doesn't work. You water daily, sunshine, soil, patience. So that's the system. We can't just, sometimes people think that as they age, they mature. But unfortunately, the maturity doesn't always come. I like to say that I used to listen to one of my favorite leader. He's written over 100 books on leadership. And he said that getting old is automatic, but getting better is not. So it's intentional. So we're going to explore the 4 laws of behavior change, which is make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And then, so we're going to explore each individual. This is so we can cultivate new behavior, and therefore we can, our journey toward Krishna will become a little bit easier. And so, practical example, instead of saying I will chant better, create a system. And the system is devotional service. So, keep japa beats ready, which is the meaning of make it obvious. I'm going to give more examples about how to make it obvious. Chant in a sacred corner, so you can make it attractive. Our place should be attractive. In fact, wherever we live, we should create a sacred place. Using incense that reminds of Krishna, not fake smells that actually stimulates lust, stimulates desire, but flavor, aromas that reminds us of Krishna, of devotion, of sacred place. So, yes. And for example, in my house, I created a library that is always reminding me to pick a book, read Bhagavatam or CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this way we build a new habit and sit with a devotee. This will make it easy and make your rounds completion, like make it more satisfying. So in our environment designed to support my spirit, we can ask ourselves if our environment is designed to support my spiritual habits or distract me from it. If you actually sit in your house and ask this question, what this place reminds me of? Does it pull me toward Krishna or toward things that away from Krishna? Because if we have too many decorations that reminds us of everything else but Krishna, then that's one cue. So let's focus on one at a time. Make it obvious. So the key idea of make it obvious is to make your brain follow cues. If you make the cue clear, habit is inevitable. So, example, keeping your beads in a place site encourages japa. Hiding them in a drawer, rarely done. So for example, if you want to cultivate a new habit of reading book, reading Bhagavad Gita, instead of keeping in the shelf, you can keep it on the table where you eat, or wherever, very close to your bed. And especially is very effective if you leave it open. So make it obvious, which makes another way you can say make it visible. So don't make it invisible. And otherwise, you don't create that cue to remind you of doing the new habit. So more practical example is to place your chanting beads near the pillow where you wake up. And keep your Bhagavatam where you eat lunch or not on the cupboard. So, is your environment working for you or against you in cultivating Krishna consciousness? So that's to make it visible. Whatever you want to do to cultivate, make it visible. Don't create a distance. Otherwise, if sometimes we create an obstacle between the object of what we want to cultivate and the things that we don't want, we bring it even closer. So the second one is to make it attractive. And so the key idea is to pair habits with pleasure. Brain releases dopamine when habits feel rewarding. So combining chanting with kirtan or seva makes it attractive and joyful, not a chore. And so for practical example could be to listen to our favorite kirtan while chanting in your room. And so now cleaning becomes devotional. If, I often, for example, when I do any activities or eating, sometimes we eat and some of us watch Netflix while eating, right? It's or anything that distracts us, anything that entertains us, instead of listening to a kirtan or class, a Bhagavatam class. So we determined what we expose our eyes to, right? We can watch things that are favorable or that reminds us of Krishna and inspires us to do better. Or we can watch things that actually promotes lust, that increases desires, not in relationship to Krishna. And make it easy. That's it. Okay. So the key idea is to reduce friction, make habits simple and small. And small seeds grow into mighty trees, but only are planted if planted in the right soil. So tiny daily efforts compound. And so practical example, instead of aiming to chant 60 rounds immediately, we can start 2 rounds. Just 2 rounds, 1 round. I started with 1 round and gradually increased to 2 and then 4. And then something happened to me and I immediately changed to 16. And so if your habit plan is simple that you could do it even on your busiest day, what would that be? Make it so simple that it's even funny, you know, 1 prayer, one verse. It's 1 verse at a time. And it becomes so easy. You know? Or read 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day. If you read Bhagavad Gita 10 minutes a day, within 30 days, that's 300 minutes. 300 minutes is 5 hours. In 5 hours you can read half Bhagavad Gita. So within 1 month you can read half Bhagavad Gita. 2 months, the whole Bhagavad Gita. And there is actually interesting statistic about reading that only 5 people read books. Which is shocking, but that's another topic. And the 4th one is to make it satisfying. And so key idea is positive reinforcement, comments, habits. So inside the reward makes behavior repeat, nature rewards repeated actions. So practical example is to keep a habit tracker for japa or reading, seeing a chain of completed days, reinforcing continuation. So for in the beginning to reinforce this, we can actually have like a list of things that we want to do, such as japa 60 rounds, or reading Bhagavad Gita 30 minutes, listen to Bhagavatam class, and then whenever you do, you put like a checklist. It's good for the beginning, because you cultivate in this way a new habit, a discipline. And then over time you will do it spontaneously, you will become attached to it, and you don't have to always check this, as we have to overcome that duty, the mood of duty. And by practice devotional service, we ultimately cultivate that taste of spontaneity. So how can you immediately celebrate even your smallest devotional victories? We can actually make it satisfying. By doing chanting, we can increase our rounds and then congratulate ourselves. So breaking bad habits inverts the laws. So as in summary, to build habits, we can make Q visible, to make it desirable, to make it attractive, make it desirable, to make it easier, we can reduce friction. So this is one important habit, how to build habits to reduce friction. For example, if somebody is alcoholic, right, and he wants to become sober again, then he can reduce friction by creating an obstacle between his whatever he's addicted to. If he lives, for example, next door to a bar, then one way to create to actually increase friction is to create a distance between the bar and himself, right? Or make it invisible. And so if you're addicted to social media, or Netflix perhaps, the way to make it invisible is to delete the app. And that's one way to do it. Because it doesn't remind you, doesn't tempt you to click and watch something else. So make it so this is the perfect way. I did this way. I got rid of all my social media accounts. I deleted my Facebook account. I didn't have other accounts, I think. Yeah. And in this way, I made it invisible, so I was not tempted in this way. There is actually a very nice saying in Christianity that they say, don't, just because you can resist the devil, it doesn't mean you have to tempt yourself. Which basically means that if you think you can resist Maya, that doesn't mean that you have to actually put yourself on the spot, because Maya is very, very strong. We shouldn't underestimate Maya. And if we think we kind of want to test ourselves, okay, let me see if I'm going to be tempted, we're ultimately going to fail. If we underestimate the power of Maya, she can bewilder us again. So if you think, oh, let me see, do I feel that pull as strong as I used to after doing practicing, chanting? You might think that you're in control, but then ultimately we can fall again. It's very easy actually to fall. So to break the habits, we can increase this friction and make it harder to engage in a bad habit by adding barriers or obstacles between the things that pulls us, and reduce friction if we want to build a habit, which means that remove that obstacle, make it visible, and therefore leave some cues, like putting Bhagavad Gita on the table instead of away from the table, so it becomes visible, and we remove that barriers. So practical examples: bad habits, mindlessly scrolling social media. As we already mentioned, make it invisible, log out, uninstall the app. This is the quickest way, and all it takes is determination. If that app, or whatever it might be, distracts you and consumes you, we can consider this. And make it attractive, read about negative effect. For example, if you want to eat healthy, you can make it attractive by reading negative effect of the consequences of eating that very thing, too much sugar, or whoever is drinking alcohol, whatever, any consumption. If you read the negative, or smoking, for example, if you want to get rid of smoking, read the negative effects. This will make it very unattractive. And sometimes we see, in movies, people smoking with so much pleasure. You think, oh, this looks cool. In fact, this is how they promoted smoking, by making it cool, appearing externally cool. And so I used to smoke when I was a kid, and I was affected by that, by too much watching this Arnold Schwarzenegger wearing a cigar. Looks such a cool guy, but he was promoting ignorance, unknowingly perhaps. And so we can make it difficult for the app to set a password or phone to access the app. Actually, what I did once in the beginning of my journey, I changed the password and I didn't save the password. So I don't know how to log in. I was like, okay, I created a password, I didn't. Now I don't know, I lost my social media account. So I have no access ever since. And so make it unsatisfying, track time lost, see how much devotion you missed. This is a perfect way to make it unsatisfying. And to think of this, because time is the most precious thing, our attention. And if we become very generous of giving our attention to unworthy things, we feel ultimately unsatisfied, unhappy. And so if you struggled with anger, remove triggers, obvious cues. Remind yourself of Krishna's teaching, attractive alternatives, and create accountability with a devotee's friend, which makes it satisfying. if you see me ever doing this, I'll give you £1. You know, so they will keep you. They will watch you every time they see you distracted during japa perhaps. Make like a penalty. So one question to ask ourselves: which bad habit is secretly controlling our mind, and how can we invert the cue today? Is it social media? Is it watching movies? Is it distracting ourselves? Too much talking, unnecessary talking perhaps? Yes. So example, a devotee wanted to develop regular japa by making beats obvious, chanting with kirtan, which makes it attractive, starting small, which is easy, just one round at a time, one verse or one chapter, and celebrating consistency makes it satisfying, so he transformed his life in months. Every beginning starts small. You don't have to do massively to jump into 60 rounds if we're not ready. I started with one round at a time, so we can gradually increase this when we develop taste. And when we do, actually, we become gradually purified. As a result, we feel the hunger to increase. So, 2 verses in Bhagavad Gita where it says, the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even if of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So even the wisest lose control when their senses revolt, showing that knowledge alone can subdue the mind. The senses are like wild horses without giving them a higher taste. They will drop the mind back into the mud. But when the mind tastes the sweetness of serving Krishna, lowest desires lose their pull, just as a man who is full no longer craves cheap food. So yes, the senses are very strong, and if it's engaged in the impious activities or unfavorable activities, we cannot control them. They are like insatiable beasts. The more we give them, the more he wants to actually drink. And in the next verse it says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his conscience upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So the key is to fix our consciousness upon Krishna, thinking always of Krishna. When Krishna says think always of me, he doesn't say think about so many other things. Right? Doesn't say think about shopping or scrolling through social media. He always say think always about me. So true mastery of the senses comes not from suppression but from absorption in Krishna. When the mind and senses are engaged in his service, control becomes effortless, like rivers naturally flowing into the ocean. The one who lives seeing everything in relationship to Krishna stands firm and peaceful when others are swept away by their own desires. So the key is to always think of Krishna, and by thinking always of Krishna, one way to do it is to chant the holy name. Pray. Because the holy name reveals the form. And then the form reveals the qualities and pastimes. Just like when you think of any song, immediately as you play that song, it reminds you of the memories related to that song. It reveals the form, the qualities and pastimes of the song. It reminds you completely of those memories. So similarly, when we chant the holy name, it reminds of our memory with Krishna, gradually. Just like a song, any song, right? Any sound. Sometimes we have these, especially songs that influence our life. As soon as we we hear them even from a distance. It reminds of our pastimes. It brings memory. So sound from sight, from sound to sight. The sound achieves the sight. It reminds us gradually the form of Krishna, then his qualities and his pastimes. So even a wise man who tries to control the senses by force is bewildered, but he who fixes his mind upon me controls the senses and obtains peace. So identity-based habits, becoming the person who serves. This is also from this book. And C.C. Madhya Lila says, it is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna because he is the marginal energy of Krishna and a manifestation simultaneously one with a different form of the Lord. Like molecular particle of sunshine or fire, Krishna has three varieties of energy, and therefore we are his marginal energy. And so we are meant, just like sugar, the eternal purpose of sugar is to become sweet. The purpose of fire is to become hot. Right? So therefore, our eternal purpose of jiva is to become eternal servants of Krishna. And so the ultimate form of habit change the identity. Change is identity change. So we shouldn't say I'm trying to change attentively, but we can say instead I am a devotee who chants attentively. It's a play of language, but it actually works much better when we say that. So we're not trying to become devotees, we are eternal servants of Krishna already. We are just remembering that identity through devotional service. And so one trick of the mind is also to never, have you observed that whenever we say I am, whatever we attach to I am becomes permanent? Like I am a doctor, right? It becomes permanent. Where I am Englishman, it becomes permanent. And so when we say, instead of saying, for example, I am scared, we could say, I feel scared. Because I am scared. It feels like a permanent thing. Where I am depressed. Instead of saying, I feel depression. If I say, I am depressed, it's like the end of the world. Right? But if I say, I feel depression, then okay, I feel depression, that means I can also feel something else. So it's not a permanent thing. People, whenever they feel depression, they think this is it. It's done. It's the end of the world. I want to take my life. But actually, they feel depressed. When I was depressed, I was not depressed. I felt depression. I felt anxiety. I was not anxious. So it's a trick of the mind. But if you learn how to practice this, you can say, the experience becomes so much easier. So instead of saying I am sick, we can say I feel sick. If you say I am sick, then you identify with that sickness. I am sick. It's like a permanent thing. And therefore it influences how we feel and how we live our life. If I am sick, I behave like a sick. Right? And I speak like I'm sick, with low energy. But if I say I feel sick, therefore I can get better. So it's it's a trick. So similarly with I'm angry versus I feel anger. So when we say I am, it's permanent. When I say I feel something, it's not. We can actually feel some otherwise. So dirty mirror doesn't need a new reflection, it just needs cleaning. Similarly, bhakti removes the dust, forgetfulness not creates a new self. So, question, what would a pure devotee version of me do right now? What would a pure devotee version of me do right now? And why not live up to that identity. Why wait? You know the popular saying, one day I'll. Some people are one day I'll. One day I'll do it. One day when I get old, I read Bhagavad Gita. I'm not ready to. But one day I'll is just an excuses, and excuses are seducers. Yeah. And how would he think this perfect identity of mine, the pure devotee? How would I think? How would I speak? How would I act? How would I respond? Why not now? 5 minutes. So practical strategies for bhakti is to strategy is habit stacking. After, for example, after brush my teeth, I will chant one round. Like merge new practice with the old practice. And in this way, make it easy. After I eat breakfast, I will read one verse. Small, easy, linked with existing routines. And not separate. And we can merge them together until we cultivate these new habits. And there is this 2 minutes rule. You can actually, some people call it 5 minutes rule. Actually, there is a book, 5 minutes rule. And so we can start small, so small that it feels silly. 1 minute of kirtan. It's very small. It's very easy to do 1 minute kirtan. One prayer of gratitude. Once the identity locks in, the behavior grows. We can every small behavior. What was that quote again? Forgot what it was. Yeah, every beginning starts small with baby steps. And so. And we can design our environment. The temple is the best spiritual system, so we can keep our home like a mini temple. We can put Krishna pictures, scriptures, aroma. We can burn the incense that reminds us of a sacred place. Prasada reminders. And so environment beats willpower. It encourages us to practice new habits if we create this kind of environment where constantly reminds us of Krishna. So in Bhagavad Gita 6.6, it says, "For him who has conquered the mind is the best friend. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy." So the mind has to be controlled. And we have to control it by intelligence, which is above the mind. But before that, our intelligence is not purified, so therefore we have to be guided by this spiritual intelligence, which is the Shastras. And once we do that, then the mind becomes more in control. And so the mind can be closest ally or deadliest foe. So if you conquer it, it guides you toward peace, purpose, and devotion to the Supreme. And if you fail, it enslaves you to lust, anger, greed, and illusion, turning your own self into the greatest enemy. So true yoga is not outward show, it is discipline in the mind, so it willingly follows the Paramatma within. Master your mind and life becomes liberation, and if we neglect it, life becomes self-destruction. And perhaps one verse so we can conclude, because I had 2 slides left. So tiny powerful bhakti steps. Don't underestimate small sincere efforts. A little baby at a time, one verse, you can increase 1 verse per day, or one, if you're more eager, 1 chapter a day. And 1 prayer, and gradually if we increase, we cultivate new habits. So in Bhagavad Gita 2.40, in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So Please don't underestimate small steps. Gradually, one thing at a time, we can increase our devotion. But baby steps, just like little babies, one baby step at a time. So the question isn't, can I do great things for Krishna? The question is, can I do small things consistently with great devotion? And so for final reflection is, what one tiny change, if done daily, would bring me closer to Krishna and my highest potential? What could that be? And so I invite everyone to write one small atomic habits that could change your life. I reflect on this, what you could do daily to increase your devotion. And don't think that you have to do major things to attain, to make a change. Everything starts small. Yeah, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And perhaps one question, or should I straight to go? Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, thank you very much.
Hare
But you mentioned, sorry, my English is poor. I'm
Yeah.
from France, and I understood some of your talking.
Yeah.
But it seems like reading sastras, Vedic literature, is very important. See, that's why I see all over the world devotees, they distribute millions of books.
Yes.
Especially now, they distribute Bhagavad Gita, like anything, you see, like rain. And but who is going to read? Because today, many people they joined because they read Bhagavad Gita. But to read Bhagavad Gita, you have to be intelligent. No, it's not anybody who will open and start to read and every day and understand what's going on, or Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. I have tried to read these books, but because I have no intelligence, I closed the book and I said, and then chanting the holy name, I'm 100% agree that it is the best way to get bhakti and liberation. But the problem is suffering. You see, when you suffer very much and every day you have incurable disease that keeps you all day checking your habit, your blood sugar, and you have to take dozens of pills every day, and then you start to chant, and our Prabhupada said, chant and be happy.
Yes.
But I have lived chanting, and I said chant and suffer, because this is my lot. Although I have been chanting, and I love chanting, and I love devotees, and I love Lord Krishna, but suffering is there, a lot of suffering, and nothing can be done, no help. And I saw many devotees, like Bhakti Charu Swami, he died with COVID in a hospital. Bhakti, Tirthaprad Maharaj, he's suffering incredible. Even His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, when he left this world, he had only bones and skin. He had been 3 months without eating, you see. And he died. Of course, he's perfect because he died in Vrindavan, chanting the holy name and translating Srimad Bhagavatam. That was a super human being. You see, very incredible. But who can follow this? Only you have to be a strength that I don't know where to get this strength. See, only suffering is there, and I try to chant, but not. How can I follow these instructions? Please.
Not everybody's intellectual. Not everybody. Everyone is unique in their own way, and you can still engage your ears just hearing. That's why there are devotees who can simplify this knowledge and explain it in an easy way to digest. So simply by hearing the topic of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, you become purified. And at the time of death, at the very least, you might have a chance to remember Krishna, not anything else, and be choked by fear and anxiety. And that's a goal worth pursuing, to remember Krishna at the end of life. We cannot pretend that we can understand things. We try our best to the best of our abilities. But we can engage, at the very least we can do, if you don't understand, you can follow the instructions. You're still already doing, you're listening, you're chanting, so that's already progress. Yes.
But like sense gratification, ISKCON, we said no, okay, some is very easy to follow, but like when your life is so much suffering and difficult, and taking a cup of coffee, for example. But the devotee will say no coffee, no tea, no coffee. It's always no. See, but when your life is hard, then sense gratification can help. Can give you relief for a little time. Of course, it's ignorance, and it's not according to the sastras and this and that. But we have to see how the world is going. Of course, we should not eat meat or kill cows. This is horrible. But some sense gratification doesn't harm anyone. Maybe harms you, but to give you some relief. Why is it condemned? See, I don't understand.
This suffering happens primarily to purify ourselves. It's a mercy in disguise, because any calamities that happens in our life teaches us to completely give up, to depend on external things and completely depend on Krishna. They happen on purpose, even though if we have the eyes to see, we can see it. And so it prepares you, that attachment, that strong attachment to this material world is accomplished through disease and through, unfortunately, this is how it is. And yeah, this is a strange way how Krishna works, but ultimately it works. You lose dependency. You completely give up ultimately to depend on external things and this material world. Because nobody actually can save us. Not even demigods. They cannot actually give us liberation with the love of Godhead. But Krishna can. And if we simply just chant and engage our ears constantly in hearing kirtan, then we become qualified to and prepared for the love of God. Thank you, everyone. And now we have prasadam.